Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. And today we're going to install this 5-foot wide Harbor Breeze fan. So I have several other videos installing ceiling fans. Usually, most rooms are going to require about a 48-inch to maybe a 52-inch fan. This is a 60-inch fan, a full 5-foot wide from blade to blade, tip to tip. When you deal with some of the larger homes and the vaulted ceilings now, you're going to have a little bit bigger fan. Now, this one is a pretty good size fan. I should say halfway completed an installation on an 8-foot from tip to tip, and I have the video on that. The problem is I kind of messed up when I was unboxing, and I got it in a bit of a hurry and did not follow one of the cardinal rules. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pull out the manual out of this before we do the unboxing to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about and how I messed that up. When you open up your manual, the very first page is generally going to give you a breakdown of components. And you really should go through and take a second and check those components out, because what I did is I installed half of the system, because when you're dealing with a large fan, you put the blades on generally after you get the motor and everything mounted. Your downrod, your motor, everything's up there. Then you'll put your blades on. If you're dealing with a smaller fan, like a 48 to 50-inch fan, generally you can take those blades and install everything and put it up and wire it in. You might leave a blade off or so just so that you can work inside of there to wire. But I tend to do that a lot. Sometimes I'll, depending on the system, I will install everything on the ground and just put it up there. Well, getting in a hurry and opening up the box, I did not check everything off. When it came time to put the blades on, I realized I was missing a lot of the hardware. Several packets of hardware were missing. So I had to call the manufacturer and get them to send me out the new packets of hardware. This is the Harbor Breeze, and this is the Henderson, and this is a 60-inch wide fan. And this looks like the windmill. It's going to have 9 or 10 blades, I believe, on it. I can count them real quick, but has little pieces that go around it. It looks like a windmill. And it's a pretty nice fan. And this also has an LED light system in it as well that you never have to replace, at least not for the lifetime of the unit. And these units, by the way, are DC powered. If you want to get a really good unit, you're going to want to get a DC powered unit. The sending unit, they work off a remote, and the sending unit is going to be pre-wired into the motor so that you don't have the module that you have to wire in at the top. So if you watch some of my other videos, you've seen that module that you have to wire in and slide at the top of your housing. You do not have to do that with these. So let's go ahead and let's get this thing opened up. Okay, so looking at the back of the box before I open it, by the way, it does have a breakdown depending on the ceiling height, which is also a little bit misleading the way that they've done this, by the way. They show pretty much flush mount, which this is not really a flush mount. It comes with a little bar, a 6-inch bar. They show it going up to 9, and they show if you go between 9 and 10, you can use a 12. If you're anywhere between the 10 and 11, use an 18. So I have over 10-foot ceilings in here, and you would automatically assume that you would jump to the 12. But if you read the manual closer, the manual points out that the 6-inch will work anywhere between the 8 and 10. You may not really need to order a larger one. So let's, without any further ado, I've already split the tape. Let's open it up. And the very first thing you're going to see when you open it, and I pulled this out a while ago to show you guys, is going to be your manual. It's going to be sitting right here on the top. So let's just get her open here. So I would take your manual, and before you do anything else, read it really close. And like I pointed out earlier, be sure that you go and check your stuff off as you go along. Mounting brackets, and they show you the picture so you know what it is that you're dealing with. So let's set that aside, and let's take a look at what we got. First thing, obviously, is going to be the blades. Now, these are a wooden blade. Some blades will be reversible. Those look like they're one color all the way across. So this is going to be the motor housing, or the motor housing, which will go up and cover the motor. And this will cover the screws. You'll have one of these in every box of your newer type ceiling fans. Basically, well, this one's a little different. It looks like it's just going to clip onto it. Sometimes they have little screw holders that'll go in and you turn. So we're going to set that aside. And there is your downrod. Now this is what I was talking about on the front here. You can get this in different lengths. This is a 6-inch length. You can move it up to different sizes by contacting the manufacturer. But this should be sufficient for what we're doing. These were the connectors to go in between your blades to give it that windmill look. And these connectors, I believe, are going to go on top of the actual blades themselves, and it stiffens the blades, gives it a little extra strength. And this is a very important package. This is what I was missing in the 8-foot ceiling fan. All the connectors that you're going to need in these little covers that go over the top. Now we should be able to open this and get right to, and a lot of times I try not to break these boxes in case I have to send it back. Make sure there's nothing inside. Sometimes they stuff things inside of these, so you got to watch real close. Never throw away your packaging until it's complete. Okay, so very interesting here. First thing I'm going to remove so it doesn't get broke. This is going to be my cover that covers the LED light. This is going to be your DC motor with your permanent LED light chips. They generally give you a lot of extra wire. You're going to put it in and you're going to mark, or you're going to, once you measure about 8 inches, 9 inches past your tube, you can cut these off. And what the steel cable does is you can actually drill a hole through the ceiling, take this up, use a screw with a washer, pull this down, get it nice and tight, crimp it, and attach it to one of your ceiling joists so that you have a backup in case this system ever breaks loose somehow. It is also attached to a ceiling joist and keeps from hurting someone. Here's your remote, and it even comes with batteries in this one. We'll set that aside. Let's see what these are. And these are going to be, this is another cover. So this cover probably is going to go down this way once everything is on. More than likely, I'll have to look and see. But it's going to usually goes one direction or the other. Your larger one usually covers the ceiling box, which would be this one right here. So this one usually covers, and you even have print, so you know that it's going to face this direction, and this one will usually come down and cover this side. So that is those. We set those over there. And you have one more thing, and this is extremely important. This is going to be your the connector and the hanging rod. There's your ground, so you're going to actually take your ground if you have one coming up through your ceiling, which if it's new construction, you're generally going to have it. You're going to attach this. Now this is going to hang like this on the ceiling. It has rubber pads to help with vibration. It'll actually connect right into your box, and make sure that your box is strong enough. You need to have a ceiling fan rated box, and you need to kind of also check the weights. You know, if it's a big fan like my 8-foot one had to have a steel box. This one is a heavy duty plastic made for a big ceiling fan. And what will happen is when you get all this hooked up, before you're going to get all this done, hooked up here, and before you put the blades on, you will take this whole unit up and it just slides inside. Now, one of the things I'm going to show you down here that'll make it a little easier is you got to, don't just set this in and think that's good. You actually have to turn this and it'll fall into place. There's a groove right there. Now it is safe and it's secure. It's a very important thing that a lot of guys miss that don't do this every day. They will just take their fan up, set it in, okay, it's done, and they go. Now the ceiling fan will vibrate like crazy. So let's go ahead and start our assembly process, get the downrod and everything attached so that we can get it up on the ceiling. So this I'm going to mount on the ceiling. So we just set that aside for right now. Now what we have to do is we have to disassemble this rod because the wires are going to go down inside of the rod and into the unit. So the very first thing that I do is I will take my little clip off here, carter pin, remove it, pull the pin out, set those aside. Now this unit, it has a set screw, and all I'm going to do is back the set screw off to loosen it. Just like that. It doesn't take much. Still leave it in there. Don't remove it all the way. And this will slide down. When it slides down, this pin that holds it into place here will fall out. We'll put it back in just so you can kind of... So that pin goes from side to side. Actually, I don't have it centered. There you go. Goes from side to side and it locks everything in. This screw holds it in place. Now, even if that screw gets loose when it's hanging in the ceiling, it can't come out, even though you want to make sure that's good and tight. But I'll loosen it. All I do is have to pull this backwards, and now this pin will come out, just like that, and set it aside. So what I'm going to do, though, is we're going to go ahead and just feed this all through there, including your cable. Do that. So you're going to take it, set that in at the top, and then you're going to go back to the pin with the little Carter pin clip, and you're going to feed that through your unit. And it's going to look like that. Now you just take the pin, you have a raised spot right in the middle. You want to make sure that raised spot is in the center of the pin. So place started in the hole, just push it, it goes in easy. And see now, just like that, the raised spot is in the center of the pin. Pin can't move. At this point, you're going to retighten your screws. And so if you guys haven't been watching, by the way, I am using this 12-volt DeWalt, and it's an impact. I normally do not use an impact with a Phillips head. But this impact has settings at the top. When the trigger is pulled, it moves through those settings. And the very first one is going to be the screw. And the screw one on this has got a special clutch to help keep you from stripping out screws like this. This little impact 12-volt system by DeWalt's great. I do have a full review on it. Be sure you look for that. Another thing you need to look at is we have to look at our housings first, though. So the housings, we need to put it in reverse order. Just like that there. Perfect. Looks really nice. Now you're going to have this ring. So it actually slides in and locks like that. This will need to go on first because it's going to be reversed. And you've got to have this. You want to see the pretty side from the ground. Set that up, just let it lay on top. And now this is going to need to look like this because, see your print, you're going to want it to cover the box. You're going to want it to cover this. So it's going to set like that. This is real important because a lot of guys, if they're not used to doing this, this is where they make the first mistake. They forget to put all these pieces on. They connect the ball, they hang it up and get everything wired. And then they're like, oh, wait a minute, how am I supposed to get this on there? So be sure you don't miss this step. So now we're going to we've got that on. And all you need to do now is just leave that down there like that. At this point, I can actually measure out a good 8 to 9 inches of wire. So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves just a little bit of extra slack, and I'm going to go to about 10, and we're going to cut these wires off. And now we are going to move that down to here. We're going to take the pin, put the pin back in. So the pin just slides into the slot right here. Make sure you move your wires out of the way. They just need to go one direction or the other. So the pin will be set through just like that. Now raise this back up. And that slot's right there. Hold it all the way up into place. I'm just holding it. The bar is kind of locked in. And now I'm just going to tighten my screw back. Okay, so the box that's in here is a very heavy-duty box, has bolts going into my ceiling joist. Now, one of the things that I have here is that's different than most is this one actually uses nuts instead of screws. So to mount this, I've got to pull those nuts off. I like to use an impact for that as well. It makes it a lot quicker. Just be sure you're using a deep socket so that you can get the nut all the way to the end when you tighten it up. So we're going to pull that off. And actually that one should be loose. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, my wires are here to the side. They're capped right now. Before you start playing with your wires, now I am turned off at the switch. I would suggest the breaker if you're not familiar with your system, and be sure you're using a tester to test it. Always be safe. Better to be safe than sorry, as they say. Now I want to turn, I'm going to turn it this way so it's easier for me to wire. So I will be bringing the fan up and clipping it in. Actually, I think that would be our best spot. So we're going to try leaving it right there. Okay, so the cable is going right next to the box here is where I drilled the hole. And I'm just working it in. And the reason I want it right at the edge of the box is that this cover is going to cover the cable. I was going to drill it through the box, and I was kind of afraid of weakening my box, so I decided not to do that. And I think next to it is fine. All this cable is going to do is if your box ever comes loose and falls, the cable will be connected to a joist in the ceiling and give you an extra bit of support so that it doesn't fall on someone. All right, guys, I tried to get it zoomed in enough so you can see where I'm mounting. Now remember, when I set that up there, what is one of the things you need to do? You need to turn this till it clips into place. And right now, I've not heard that clip. Let's see if we can find it. There it is, right there. Right now, I have nothing. Everything is dead, which is exactly what we want. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you what it's like if there is electricity. I'm going to turn the electricity on, and we're going to test it again. So electricity should be on to those wires now. Let's see how the unit picks up. So we're going to take our same tester. It's already turned on. That's how you know that you have live wire. These are marked motor, neutral, which is basically, motor is just telling you it's your hot wire. Your green wires are going to be your ground. You have the solid wire coming out, which is a ground. So all of these need to be together. I'm going to trim that back just a little as well. So now I have my 3, and then I will put on a wire nut. And when you're putting these on, be sure you twist them until the wires start turning. When they start turning and I get it looped around each other, I know that I've got a good connection. Okay. Going to connect our neutral. I usually do neutral and I do my hot last. Now they suggest, and it's probably not a bad idea, to use a little electrical tape on these once you make sure you've got a good connection. So what I'll do is I'm going to get everything ready and I'm going to turn on power and make sure that it's working. And then I will probably put a little bit of electrical tape around the end before I push it up in the box, because what happens sometimes if things come loose, they can get loose and make it inside of one of the other connectors, which you do not want. So there's our hot. And now we are going to take and put those side by side and kind of pre-wrap it the same way. Just like that. And I get it, I'm trying to get where you guys can see, but I'll get those And there goes that tester. I can hear it beeping. But I get them side by side, kind of start it a little, and then I start twisting it on. Keep twisting till you feel it turning underneath your other fingers over here. And I do that till I get some good twists going on. Okay, guys, one thing to show you, if you're going to be installing this unit, be prepared. You're going to have a little screwdriver for this screw. Okay, batteries are now installed. Let's go ahead and check our power before we tape everything off and put the shroud on. So let's see, let's do lights first. Lights work very well. Let's go ahead and try the motor. We'll put it on 1. It looks like it's adjusting itself and setting up. It is a DC motor. It'll start turning and it should start gradually spinning, which is exactly what we want. And you go all the way up to 6, but if 1 is working, I'm sure the others are fine. I don't want to do a whole lot of that without the blades on, so let's go ahead and shut it off. Okay, power is off. Let's put a little tape. We'll use the black electrical tape just around the ends of our plastic wire nuts, just to make sure. Now you can use the Wago type connectors here if you want. I don't particularly like using those on ceiling fans because of all the vibrations. Just worried that they may come loose and cause a problem. I want a good heavy connection that I know is going to be there for years to come. So I'll start at the bottom of the wire, go around it, and then work myself up onto the nut itself, and then push it in and make sure that it's covered really well. This way, if something comes loose like a neutral, it can't find its way into there, or vice versa. You got 2 screws here, and we're going to have to lower them out. One of them you take out all the way, and the other will be a slide on. Same as every other unit, and it's always a pain. So there is that one. Now the hard part is always getting the other screw back in, because these housings can move a little bit, and knowing exactly where it is not always easy. So what I'm doing here, you'll notice this is the slide in. This is where you always have problems. This one slides, but you have to find this hole, and it's really hard to find the right spot. So what I've done, I left the screw in it so that now I can spot it from underneath, and I'm going to come up here to something like this. I'll either make a mark or I'll use the marking that's on here, like in this case the H, and then I'm going to make a little mark. Just enough so that I know if I put this back on, get it into spot, and slide this over, I'll know exactly where this little hole is at. Okay, so the actual motor housing and the downrod and everything is connected. I did have a little trouble getting the 2 little screws on the housing cover up, which is nothing unusual. Pretty much every fan I install, that is always an issue. There's several different tricks I use to try to get it to line up, but it's always painful. I really wish they'd come up with a different method for that. But if you don't get both of those screws in, what's going to happen is if you do just the one where you turn it and it slides and clicks into place and then you tighten that screw, over time it's going to vibrate, and that's going to come loose and it's going to crash, down on the top of the housing. And you're going to have to find screws to try to put it back up in there. And chances are you won't even have the original screw you couldn't get in there. So you're only going to have that one, and it's probably in the carpet or gone somewhere now. So my suggestion, spend a little bit of extra time getting that done right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and attach the blades. Now this is a very unique system with the windmill type construction on it going around. And I'm going to show you, I'll go ahead and do a close-up here at how these blades go together, because it's definitely unique. First of all, I am going to tell you I did have to read the instructions on this one just because it is different. But you're going to have 2 bags. You're going to have one marked BB and one marked AA, which is just the little screws with a washer on it, and your little decorative nuts that, they give you something to screw into, but it actually makes it look nice from underneath. Okay. They do tell you that you have 1 extra of each. So if you get to the end, you've got extra parts. That's why you have extra parts, so you don't have to panic. These are your support rods. Now, these are not going to be on every one of your blades. They're only going to go on 5 of them. And these things, when we go over and we start installing them, you're going to see that if you look up at the top of the actual unit, there's two different types of slots, and every other one or so is going to have, it's actually every other one, has a place where this slides in and then you put your bolts. That being said, you're going to pick out 5 of your blades like this. It doesn't matter which ones, but they do show you, by the way, if you look at the blades, it'll tell you this side up. Make sure you look for those stickers. That's going to tell you how you're going to lay the metal. So you're going to take 5 of the blades, just pick 5 random blades, and you're going to take and put this on here just like so. So you're going to line up the 2 holes here, and then this one is going to be raised up a little on this side because it is going to have these little windmill things go underneath it. So all you're going to do though first is you're going to put one of the screws, and I'll go ahead and do one here. And this is where they tell you not to use a power drill because you could damage the unit. So I'm going to put one screw in here like that. Take one of the decorative washers, put it up underneath. And then I'm just going to use a Phillips screwdriver and tighten it up. The reason they don't want you using the power tool again is they're afraid you're going to crack this material and cause a problem because it is fairly lightweight material. So what I'm going to do is I get them both in there kind of snug, make sure my hole is lining up down here, and then I tighten it down. And you can actually hear the material crunching underneath it as you tighten. So you don't want to overdo it and break it. Just good and snug. So you're going to repeat that process for 5 of these, and then we're going to go install the blades. There are 2 different types. This one slides in, it's indented, and this one is flush. So the one that slides in is going to be the one with the brackets that we just put on. You can see where that's at. This piece should just slide, attach this blade. Let's see if I can get one of them started here. Okay, there's one of them in. Put in the second. There it goes. Same thing, get them tight, but don't break your blades. Just like that there. So that's your one with your bracket. Then every other one is going to be a normal blade. And we are going to start it like that. Line those up. So guys, there's a couple of things I want to go over. One of the things, the instruction manual tells you not to put this on until you've got all the blades on. Why they tell you to do that doesn't make any sense to me, because I can guarantee you, if you saw how much trouble I was having putting it up to begin with, that's going to make it 10 times harder. So definitely put this shroud on before you put the blades. Now, when the blades go on, they're not too difficult, but you are going to have a problem. These little locking nuts, they're decorative, that go up underneath. They have little bitty teeth on the end of them, and they're supposed to bite into the blade. If you're not careful, they just spin, and as you noticed in the video, or actually I'll show you up above, I had to use a clamp to clamp a couple of them to get it to actually hold and be able to screw these down so they're tight. So that's the second problem with this fan. Now, the third problem is your instructions are not very clear on how these little metal braces work. So I'm going to explain it to you in the way that it makes sense to me, so that you'll be able to remember how to put it together. You have a bent end here, and you have a little protruding end on this side. The side with this little nipple or protruding end, it always goes from the bottom. This one always goes on top. So you're going to go under one of your brackets, the blades that have the brackets, slide that underneath, and the side that has the protruding nipple, if you look underneath here, it will slide in here. Your next piece is going to literally, same thing, bent side up, it's going to go up on top, and the nipple is going to go back underneath, just like that. And you'll put your screw through both of these, your screw through here, here. But that's how these work, they interlock together. Just remember, bent end goes always on tops. The little nippled side always goes underneath. If you can remember that, it's pretty easy to put them together. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. We're going to put on the light cover on the light, and we're going to power it up and see what the final product looks like. There you go. The fan blades are now on, and now it's going to be a matter of connecting up your little windmill connectors that go in between. anything out of today's video and you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. And when you subscribe, be sure you hit that little bell notification and turn it to all so you know about all the videos as I release them. If you have time, go ahead and leave me a comment. I appreciate the comments. I like reading them. It helps other people and it helps the channel grow. And be sure you hit the like button as well. So until the next time, thank you for watching.